Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about the important concept to call the interfaces of this collection framework we discussed here. So these are the interfaces we identified in the last session, like a collection interface, list interface, and a set interface. Okay, sorted set, navigable set, and the last two like queue and DQ related interface. So each interface basically it is going to have a specific purpose here. Now, what we will understand basically, so we'll try to provide the implementation of this particular each interface here. Okay, so now, so what exactly the each interface is implemented and what are the abstract classes? Because each and every interface internally we are having abstract class. Okay, so now we'll see what exactly the each and every abstract class we are having here. So for the collection, okay, for the collection, so we have a one abstract class. For this particular abstract class, let me show you that of the abstract class here. Abstract collection. Okay, so abstract collection basically it is one of the abstract class here. Now here you can see public abstract class abstract collection and which is implementing from this particular collection. Okay, so whenever we are having this particular abstract collection, so we need to understand the important section regarding this particular abstract collection, what exactly it is doing now. So this is the constructor and this method still it is not implemented. The size method, so only is empty is implemented and contains method is implemented. So few of the methods are implemented under this particular abstract class and some of the methods are not yet implemented under this particular abstract collection. Okay, so here you can see the second method to array. Yesterday we discussed about this particular to array. So whenever we want to convert into the object array, so this method is implemented. So what is the final step here? Array dot copy of. Okay, so object size based on the object size we are creating now. So after that we are iterating and based on this particular for loop. So we are trying to copy the one by one object into this particular array dot copy of this. So otherwise it will copy the it dot return next and finish to array. So this is the method we are going to be used here. Okay, so what we need to understand here, so this is the main important concept here. Basically objects are we are trying to store in the different format here, but now whenever we are trying to converting into this particular object array, what we are doing is we are creating an object array here based on the size here, so that so whatever the element we store into the respective collection, so those values we are going to be passed, because when we are trying to work with arrays, so we should provide the size here first. While creating the particular object array, we need to provide the size here. So whenever we are providing the size here, whenever we are providing this particular size here, now what happens basically here here we are trying to once a size is created, so we can store those number of values here. Okay, so after that what I'm doing is, so we are trying to call the iterator and this is the for loop. One by one we are trying to repeat here. If this particular RT does not contain the next here, so we'll copy this particular arrays dot copy of. So otherwise we'll keep on loading the array of I. So array of I means here we are storing this particular array of I. So finally we'll return this particular, so the last iteration here, so arrays dot copy of R and I. What is the I? It is a index location. So this is the method implemented. So some of the methods are implemented from this particular abstract collection and some of them are not implemented. So most of the common methods are implemented here. So you can see to array. when we are trying to providing the specific data type, we are trying to creating this particular two array. So now this is we can understand. So this is the private method internally we are having here. So we are using this internal private method. Now you can see add method. So as of now, this add method is implemented. Just it will throw an exception. But when we are trying to work with each and every implementation class here, what it will do, it will okay, it will try to throw it will not throw an exception because this is the abstract collection class. If any method it is not implemented, if any method it is not yet implemented respect to this add method, what happens basically? So here this is an exception we are going to be get here. But in our case, all the classes are implemented successfully, so we are not going to get any exception. We're not going to get any exception here. Okay, we'll see how this add method is implemented internally. Okay, so another important method basically, so what we can understand here, so remove method. So now here you can see the remove method. Here we are having iterator, and if the object is null, we are doing this particular condition, and if the object is not null, we are trying to do this particular condition here. So this is what we need to understand here. So these are about the remove method. Now at the same time, we can see the contains all. So we'll debug the one by one method. Okay, but first what we need to understand here, so collection is an top level interface, and at the same time abstract collection is also one of the top level abstract class. Abstract collection is also one of the top level class here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand here. Okay, so now the next abstract class, what is the next abstract class we need to understand here? Now here in place of this particular abstract collection, so we have abstract list here. Now you can see this abstract list here. Abstract list is also one of the abstract class, and internally it is extending from this particular abstract collection, and internally it is implementing the list interface. Okay, now here you can see protected. Now at the same time construct is protected add method. So this is an add method. Internally we are calling add size here. So what is why we are calling the size here? If you remember the list related method, basically we are going to follow the indexes. Only the interrelated specific methods here will follow the index related. The size now it's playing as an index role. Now here you can see the add method. So one add method is implemented, but the second add method we need to identify whether it is implemented. So as of now, this method is not implemented. So where we can check this method? In the implementation class. So this particular abstract class is not implemented fully. Okay, so partially it is implemented. So some of the methods are implemented, some of the methods are may not implemented. So here example, here what is an example? Here you can see get method, public abstract key get method. So still this method is not yet implemented. In the any class, if one method it is not implemented fully, the entire class we are going to make as a abstract. So this is we already discussed in the previous sessions. Okay, so at the same time here you can see set method, so add method. So here also we can understand a few of the methods are implemented, few of the methods are not implemented. So where we can check it, if you want to check each and every method, we can go and check in the implementation class. Okay, so far we discussed about the two abstract classes. Now we'll identify the one implementation class. Okay, now here you can see array list. So this is an implementation class. So if you observe carefully, this particular class does not contain any abstract. This particular class does not contain any abstract. So what we can understand, so this is a class fully implemented. This is the class, it is fully implemented. Now observe carefully, here we are having public class array list, and which is extended from the abstract list here, and it is implemented from this particular list interface. So implements list interface, random access, clonable, and these are the some different interfaces. But finally, what we are understanding here you can see implementing from this particular list interface. Whenever we are implementing list related specific method, we are implementing, as well as the collection related methods also now we are going to implement here. So this is very important information we need to understand here. Okay, so now you can see here. So just now we discussed here, array list is a fully implemented class and abstract list is partially implemented. Abstract list internally, it is extending from the abstract collection, and abstract collection internally it is implementing from the collection interface. So if you observe the hierarchy, how it is looking here. So top level, what is the interface here? We already discussed here, collection. Okay, collection. Collection basically it is a top level interface. Now it is a list here. Set we observe, queue we observe. Okay, and here what you need to understand here, the another important section here, this list implementation class is array list. Array list is a fully implementation class, but array list internally what is doing is it is extending. It is extending one class here. So what is the class it is extending? Abstract list here. Okay, abstract list. And what we can understand here, abstract list internally it is extending one more class here, abstract collection. Abstract collection, and this abstract collection directly it is implement from this particular collection interface, and this abstract list is already implementing from this particular list interface, and array list also internally it is implemented from this particular list interface here. Getting the point? So this is very important information we need to understand here. Getting the point? So array list is one of the fully implementation class. Abstract list is basically it is the partially implemented, and abstract collection is also one of the partial implementation class. Okay. Now if you want to work with the list here, so this is a class we can work here, because this class we cannot create an object. This class we cannot create an object. So why we cannot create an object of this particular abstract list here? Because the class does not implemented fully. This class does not implemented fully. So this is what we need to understand. Okay, let me try to create an object here. So here I'm trying to create an object here. Okay, here I'm trying to create an object. So abstract list here. So this is an abstract list, and here I'm going to provide this string here. The generic type I'm trying to providing this string here. Now what we can do? So abstract list we can provide here, and a new abstract list here. Getting the point? So whenever I'm trying to providing, now here you can see, so why I'm getting this particular error here, you need to understand so why this particular error is occurring here. Here you can see this particular error. So abstract list is an abstract class. We cannot create a object of this particular class here. So it's saying cannot be instantiated. Cannot be instantiated here. So this is what we need to understand here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand here. So mainly what we can understand here, this particular class does not implemented all the methods. So some of the methods still it is in the abstract here. So which method we can see the example? So here you can see this public abstract get method. The get method it is not yet implemented. Okay, so because of this class we are making. So if you go to this particular array list, now array list does not contain any abstract. So it is a fully implementation class. Okay, it is fully implementation class. So this is what we need to understand here. Okay, so now we'll see what are the methods so far we discussed here. Those methods we are going to be identifying now here. In the yesterday class, we copy the array list related methods and collection related methods. Now each and every method we are going to be implemented, and we'll see how this particular each methods are going to be implemented internally. Okay, to understand this, now first what we need to do, so we created the one collection object collection package here. Let's focus on the particular collection package. So this is a collection framework. Now what I'm doing, I'm trying to create one example of this particular array list demo. Array list demo. Now here, so when we are trying to work with this particular array list demo, now what we can identify basically here I'm going to be create a main method, and under the main method now I'm trying to work with each and every class here. Okay, now I'm closing all the classes here. Now observe carefully. Okay, so here I'm trying to create a I'm trying to create a object of this particular array list. Just now we observed array list is one of the implementation of this particular list interface here. Array list, I'm providing the string as a generic type here, and array list, so new array list object here. New array list object I'm creating. So now you can see we are able to create a array list object without any errors. So successfully we created. So how we created? Because this is a fully implementation class. So we can create a object of this particular array list here. The second important section basically what we can identify here. Now here the particular type we provided. So what exactly the array list will do now? Array list, it is going to be support the dynamic array. Dynamic array. So dynamic array means automatically it will grow, automatically it will sync. So whenever we are trying to add elements, it will increase the size of the array list. Whenever we are trying to delete the objects here, automatically it will decrease the array list size here. Automatically it will decrease the array list size. So this is what we need to understand here. So this is the purpose of this particular array list here. Whenever without providing the size here, we can increase the array list here, and we can decrease this particular array list here. So this is the main purpose of this particular array list here. Okay. Now we observe. So what are the constructors we are having regarding this particular array list? Because so this is very important here. Whenever we are trying to work with any implementation class, so we need to focus on the different type of constructors. So how each and every constructors are going to be implemented here. Okay, how each and every constructors are going to be implemented. To understand this particular important constructors here, now what we will do, this is the default constructor. So this dot element data. So what is basically element data here? Now here we are trying to create an object array here. So you can see object array element data. Okay, so here we are trying to store the data into this particular object array here. We are trying to store the data into this particular object array, and here this is the element data we are having here. Now, so default capacity empty element data. So what exactly we are doing here? Now if you go to this particular default capacity, so as of now nothing, just we created the array object with the array object here. So whatever the object array we created here, so this concept we will call it as a array initializer. So using this particular array initializer, we are trying to initializing empty data. Empty data. Okay. Now this is the default constructor. So what is the second constructor? What is the second constructor here? This is the second constructor. Public array list. So here we can specify the initial capacity. Here we can specify the initial capacity. So whenever we are specifying the initial capacity, what exactly we are doing here? Here we are trying to create a capacity. So now you can see new object initial capacity. Okay. Here we are providing the size. Initially we are providing the size here. By using this particular constructor, we can provide the size so that we can store those elements. For example, I given the 10 here. Okay. So I given the 10, but I'm trying to store 15 elements. I'm trying to store 15 elements. So whether the last, like this is the capacity, it is a more than the size here. So how exactly it is going to be work here? How exactly it is going to be work? So we need to understand the important section. Automatically it will create a new array by copying the existing value as well as new values here. So internally it is going to take care of the creating the bigger array list here. Okay. So whenever we are trying to providing, so outside of this particular capacity, what exactly it will do? It will create an object with a old capacity and a new capacity. So we'll see how exactly it will create. But initially, whenever we want to store the data, we have a constructor. We can provide the initial capacity so that we can start the object with the respective initial capacity. Now here what I'm doing is element data. Okay, this is not element data, new object initial capacity we provided. Now here, so else if, so initial capacity equals to 0. If the capacity is 0, again we are doing the same, empty element data. So what is exactly the empty element data? It is the simple object declaration. So this is, we'll call it as a simple object declaration we are having it. Okay, so mostly when we are trying to call this constructor, we'll provide the value. If your value we are providing the 0, so what is the use of this particular constructor? What is the use of this particular constructor to call this? So directly we can call default constructor. So this is the second one and this is the default one. Now here you can see the third constructor. So this is the third constructor. What exactly we are doing? So which is expecting collection, which is expecting the collection. Now what we can understand, we can store the multiple values here. Okay, so this is basically here we can understand this particular array list is going to store the collection of object as a parameter. So we'll see this particular collection. So what exactly this collection will do now? And so there is no remaining constructor. So the array list is having 3 constructor. The first one will go for the default constructor. Okay, second one we can provide the capacity. So third one we can provide the collection of object. Collection object here. Okay, so these are the 3 objects we can provide here. These are the 3 objects. So this is very important. So default constructor and capacity we can provide and collection of objects. Using this particular 3 constructors, we can create a object of this particular array list here. So what exactly array list will do now? What is the purpose of this particular array list here? Array list basically dynamically it will increase or decrease the size here. Whenever we are trying to store the multiple values, so it will increase. When we are trying to delete, automatically it will decrease here. So this is the main purpose of this particular array list. So here we'll see this particular implementation concept here, what exactly it will do the each and every method. So we observe the constructors here. Now we need to identify the methods. The first method will work with a collection method. First method will work with a collection method. So what exactly the collection method is doing now? So let me copy this into the right side here so that we can try to work on the collection related method. Okay, so size method as of now we cannot work. Okay, let me print this particular size here. System.out.println array list dot size method. Size method. Now here what we need to understand basically here you need to understand the important section called size method we are calling. Now whenever I'm trying to print this particular size method, so what happens basically here you can see the size I'm getting as a 0. Why I'm getting the size as 0? As of now we did not initialize any values here. So now what about this particular is empty? So is empty, again I'm going to be called the is empty. I'm going to be called here array list dot is empty. Array list dot is empty I'm calling. Now let me run this example here. Here you can see, so 0 we are having true we are having. So is empty, it is returning true. Why it is returning true? Because here we did not we did not store any values here. Getting Ben, we did not store any values to this particular array list here. So because of the size is 0, automatically the empty also, because array list as of now it is an empty, it does not contain any value. Because of that it is returning true. Now I'm going to be add a values here. So here you can see this is the add method. So now here I'm working with this is the add method. Now this add method basically what is doing it is expecting the e. So whenever it is expecting the e, what is the e we provided? Here we provided the generic type, we replace it with the string here. So whenever we are trying to replacing with the string, we should provide the string related value. We should provide the string related value here. Okay. So here what we can identify here. So simply I'm trying to store 456 here. 456. Now observe here, I'm trying to run this example. Okay. The size we are getting as a 1 and is empty, now it is returning as a false. Now what you understand here, earlier the size we got is 0. When the size is 0, we are getting the true here. Is empty, it is returning true. When the size it is not 0, the is empty, it is returning false. Is empty, it is returning false. So now what you understand here, so basically this array list internally it is going to follow the structure of this particular way here, because array list internally it is going to store the data in the object array, so this is a object array structure. Now in the 0 index location, what I did here, I initialize the value called 456 here. I initialize the value called 456 here. So because of this, now the object array, like array list internally is having one record. So the size is returning 1 and it is not a empty because we are having one record. So the is empty, it is trying to return as a false here. Okay. So now we'll see the each and every method. So first, which method we need to check? A add method. So what exactly the add method is doing now? Okay. What exactly add method is doing? So I'm calling this particular array list here. I'm calling this particular array list here. So you can see carefully. So this is the add method we are having, and here we are trying to increase the mod count. So basically this mod count, each and every method we are increasing. We can ignore this mod count here, but the second one what we are doing here, we are calling the add method, which is expecting 3 parameters. Okay, add method which is expecting the 3 parameter. The first parameter, whatever the object we passed here. So second parameter, what is the element data? If you remember in the top, we declare the object like this. In the top, we declare the object like this. So object array, element data. Okay, object array, element data. Now this element data is having the data type called object array. So object array, it is going to store the multiple values. Object array, it is going to store the multiple values. So this is we observe. So second parameter is object array we are passing. What about the third parameter, size? So size basically it is a int declare type here. Let's see, here you can see private int size. It is a integer related one variable we declare here. Now the variable will play as a size related. So you can see we are passing the size. So finally now I'm trying to put a breakpoint here. We'll debug this application so that we can understand the how this add method internally implemented. Okay, now you can see from where it is calling here. Okay, so it is calling from the different location. So I want to put a breakpoint here. Okay, so now we can put a breakpoint again one more time here. Now let me go to here. So here you can see what is the parameter of e. What is the value we are passing? 456. Okay, 456 we are passing here, and at the second parameter, now you can see this. Now as of now, any record we stored here into this element data? Nothing. So nothing here. Object array, it is not returning anything because we did not store any values here. So whatever this particular size here, by default it is a 0. By default it is 0. So far we did not initialize any value here. We did not work with any value here. So this is what we need to understand here. It is returning 0 here. Okay. So now you can see this is something like element we are passing, and this is the element data object array we are passing, and size. So go to this add method. Now we are under the add method. Okay. Now we are under the add method. Now observe carefully. So we pass the three parameters. We pass this particular three parameters here. Now here, so what is the S here? S size if element data dot length. Element data dot length. What is returning? 0. Element data dot length also it is returning 0. So finally, what we can understand here? Here we can understand the so the size and length both are same. Size and length both are same. So here it is returning true here. When these two conditions are satisfied, here it will return the true here. Getting the point? So this is what we need to understand here. This is what we need to understand. So once this condition is satisfied, so what we are doing here, we are calling the grow. We are calling the grow, and we are passing into this particular same variable called element data. Okay. So now we'll see what exactly the grow method is doing now. So this grow method, we are going to call multiple location. Now we need to understand here. So what exactly the grow method will do. Okay. Let me go inside this particular grow method. So this is the grow method we are calling, and internally it is calling the one more grow method based on the size plus 1. Size plus 1. So what is the size? 0. 0 plus 1, it will become 1 here. Now go to this particular internal grow method. Now here you can see what is the minimum capacity we are providing? 1. Okay. 1 we are providing. And here, so what we can understand here, arrays dot copy of. Arrays dot copy of. What is the element data? Nothing. If this element data does not contain any value. But here you need to understand this. You need to understand this. So what you need to understand basically here, new capacity. New capacity is basically it is a method, and based on this particular parameter, okay, based on this particular capacity parameter, we are going to create a object array. Okay, so let me show you this how we are able to call here. Here this is a method which is going to be called now. Now here, now what you are understanding, element data dot length. As of now 0. Old capacity 0. Old capacity plus old capacity is, it will become the new capacity we are going to be get here. Now observe carefully. Here you can see element data dot length we are getting, and the new capacity. So what is the new capacity we are getting here? 0. Okay, so new capacity is 0. So new capacity minus minimum capacity, it is less than or equal to 0. So minus minimum capacity, what is this? 1. And the new capacity 0. So 0 minus 1, the minus 1 value we are getting here. So now it is less than or equal to 0. So whenever we are having this, what we are doing is element data is equal to default element empty data. So if you remember, so this is we passed in the above sections. Okay, so this is we passed in the above sections here. So because of this, now we are getting this particular piece of code here. And second section, what we can understand here, here we are getting the math dot maximum of default capacity, minimum capacity. So default capacity 10. Default capacity we are getting 10. Minimum capacity 1. So what exactly the math method is doing now? What exactly the math dot max method will do? So which value is the greater, those value will return. So as of now 10 value and 1 value we are passing. So 10 is a bigger value compared to this particular one. 10 is a bigger value compared to this particular one. So the particular 10 it is going to be written. Okay, the 10 it is going to be written. So this is what we need to understand here. So now finally, what is the new capacity we are going to be get here? The new capacity we are going to get as a 10 here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand here. This is what we need to understand. So this is very important section we are discussing here. Now you can see, so old capacity, new capacity, we are checking all the capacities here. But even though we are checking this particular all the capacities here, what happening basically, the last condition math dot max here. Okay, math dot max here. The math dot max basically it is checking default capacity and minimum capacity. So finally, what you understand regarding this particular default capacity? Okay, inside this particular array list here, so we can store by default 10 values. We can store by default 10 values. So this is what we need to understand here. Okay, so now it is returning the new capacity as a 10. It is returning this particular new capacity as a 10 here. Now, so this particular 10 it is going to be written, and so here we are going to be get as a object array. We can store up to 10 elements. We can store up to 10 elements here. So this is what we need to understand regarding this particular grow method. So what you understand here, grow method finally it is returning we can store up to 10 elements here. Okay, so we are getting this group, and here if you remember the object array, if you remember the object array, this is very important here, how we are going to store the values, how we are going to be store the value. So this is the object array reference here, and S will play as the index role, and the E, original E we are passing here, the original E we are passing this particular value here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand regarding this particular add method. So what exactly the add method is doing now? What exactly add method is doing now? So based on the capacity, so it is creating an object array, and once the object array is created, now it is going to be store the data into the respective index location. So index location basically the size variable, whatever the size variable we provided, the size variable it is working on this particular index here. It is working on the index location here. So this is what we need to understand here. This is the internal implementation of add method, which is coming from the collection interface. So what about the second add method we need to discuss here? The second add method we need to discuss, which is expecting the parameters, which is expecting the parameter. So what is the parameter which is expecting it? Int index here, and the second one is original value. Okay, so understand here the second method, how exactly it is going to be written. Okay, now go to this particular second method. So to understand the second method, here we store the value. Now you can see inside the element data in the 0 index location, we store the 456. So what you understand regarding the array list internally, it is using the object array to store the values. Internally, it is using this particular object array to store this particular values here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand here. Now, size here. What is the S we are having? 0. S plus 1. So that will become 1 here. That will become 1 here. Okay, now you can see because of this, the size we got as a 1, and the is empty. So is empty method. Now we observe this particular part. The second one, what you need to understand basically here. So you need to understand the important section called is empty method. So what exactly the is empty method is doing now? What exactly the is empty method is doing now? So to understand this particular is empty, so what we can do now? Let me go to the isEmpty method. Now I'm calling this particular isEmpty. Here you can see if the size variable, if the size equals to 0. Here we are using the double equals to operator. Getting the point? So this is important. We need to understand here. Here the size is a variable. It is not a method here. Carefully observe. It is not a method. It is a variable. We already we already so discuss here. Private int size one variable is declared here. The same variable. Okay. The same variable. If it is returning 0, the empty method will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. So double equal to operator, basically the right side value and left side value will compare. Right side value we are having 0. If the left side value also 0, then it will become true. Okay. If the left side value not 1, like sorry, not 0, whether it is 1, 2, something. Okay. What happens here? It will return false. It will return false. So this is a isEmpty method. So it's a simple one. Just we need to understand if the size equals to 0. Okay. If the size equals to 0, then we can understand the condition, the isEmpty condition will get as the isEmpty method will return as a true. Otherwise, it will not return as a true. So this is what we need to understand here. So this is what we need to understand regarding this particular isEmpty method. Now you can see the second method. So something like a size here. So what exactly the size method is doing? Simply it is returning the size variable. So size is a method. The line number 285, it is a variable. It is a variable. So this is what we need to understand. So finally, we understand the three methods. So what are the three methods we understand here? The first method we understand the add method. If the size and length both are same, then we are going to call a grow method. Internally, the grow method, what exactly it is doing it is trying to create, first it is identifying the new capacity. Based on the new capacity, so it is trying to create a element object size here. Then it is going to be store the value into the respective object array here. The respective object array here. So this is what we need to understand here. Okay, this is what we need to understand the add method. So now, so second add method. Let's say I'm going to be called one more time the same add method. Here I'm not passing the 4, 5, 6 here. I'm going to be pass 1, 2, 3. So this is a two objects. This is two objects we need to understand. Now again, I'm going to be run in the debug mode. I'm going to be run in the debug mode. So now you can see, so first time we are calling, okay, this is calling the new capacity. So first time we observe here, 4, 5 related part we observe. Okay, no need to go to the same time. So now here you can see the size it's showing as a 1 here. The size now we are getting as a 1 here. Now what about this particular 1, 2, 3? What about this particular 1, 2, 3? So now one more time we are calling the same add method. Okay, one more time we are calling this particular same add method. So whenever we are calling this particular add method one more time, so what we can understand here? What we can understand here? So whenever we are calling the second time here, okay, so we need to debug the respective method now. So this is the add method. We observe internally the add method is calling this particular add method, which is expecting the 3 parameters. So here, what you will understand here. Okay, here what you will understand basically, you will understand the important information. You will understand the important information. Element we are passing. E means element we are passing. Element data object array we are passing. Already this object array store the one record here. Okay, and size here. So what is the size? Size it is returning 1 because one record already we stored here. One record already we stored. So second time we are calling this. Now, so S, what is the S? Yes, it is returning 1. What about this particular element data dot length here? So it is returning as a 10 here. Basically, it will return as a 10 here because by default we can store 10 objects. 10 object we can store into array list. So you can see 1 equals to 10. Okay, 1 equals to 10. It is not satisfying the condition. It is not satisfying the condition. So when it is not satisfying the condition, this grow method it will not call. This grow method it will not call. So when it will call basically, so size equals to 0 and size 10 equals to 10. These two conditions only it is going to be called. And after this 10, again we are going to be called the grow method. Then the new capacity will become 15 or 20. Let's say if it is a 20, so the same condition will satisfy 20 equals to 20. Until this particular 20, the grow method it is not going to be called. Okay, this is very important. So why we are calling? Because we reached the size here. We reached the size. We store the size of the elements, whatever the size we declare, the size of the element we store here. So now again we are trying to store the one more element. So there is no space here. So space means basically object array, how it is going to be contained here. This is we need to understand. Okay, 0 to 10. You can understand 0 to 10. Now I store the 10 element. So whenever I store the 10 element, this is a condition. It is going to be satisfied. So the 11th element. Okay. So 11th record also I'm trying to store. But here the object array does not contain the space here. We store this up to this particular 10 here. But we need a one more space like this. Then only we can store the value here. But there is no space here. So whenever we don't have a space, what we are doing is we are creating a new bigger object array. Okay, so up to this particular 10 it will store. Now it will keep on inside the few more records here. So this is, we'll call it as a growing automatically. Growing automatically. So this is the main purpose we are going to be get when we are trying to work with this particular array list here. So now you can see, and here, so the condition is not satisfying here, and we are going directly to the next method. Here we are passing the value. In the S here, what is the S here? S we are having first. S we are having first. In the first index location, we are storing the value called 1, 2, 3. Now you can see element data now will contain the 2. So 0 and first. In the 0 index location, we store as a 4, 5, 6. And in the first index location, we store as a 1, 2, 3. Now the size automatically, it is increasing based on this particular value here. Okay, so based on this particular value, it is going to be increased here. So this is what we need to understand here. Now once the size is increased here, so automatically the size variables are going to be updated. Now you can see earlier the size variable 1, now it is become 2. It is become 2. So we initialize the two values. We initialize the two values. So size you will get as a 2. Now you can see size you are getting as a 2, and is empty you will get as a false here. You will get as a false because it contains the two objects. It cannot return the true here. So this is what we need to understand regarding this. So far we discussed the size and is empty add method. Okay. So tomorrow we'll continue the remaining methods of the collection. So once we familiar the collection method, we'll discuss about the uh, list related methods. So as long as we'll familiar with object related or collection related methods, we'll focus on the more about the collection related methods here. Okay, so these are about the, so today's session will continue tomorrow with the continuation of the collection interface methods.